Welcome once again to the Moj Maths and Science. In this lesson, we'll be working on solving quadratic equations using completing the square method. In our last lesson, we actually solved quadratic equations using factorization method, but the factorization method has its own limitation. So we would work in this lesson with completing the square method. It will help you solve quadratic equations that have irrational numbers. Let's see how it goes. We know that quadratic equations usually have these expressions: ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now, when we were dealing with factorization method, we grouped it into 4 steps. If you missed that lesson, please check the description below. We have included a link to that lesson in the description below. Now, in our first step, we'll pick ax squared and c and we'll multiply it. But the reverse is the case in here. The first step you do when it comes to completing the square method, step 1, is to divide through by a. Divide all the equation by a. That is, I'm going to divide this equation by a. It becomes x squared. If I divide ax squared by a, I'm removing a. It becomes x squared plus, I'll divide my b by a, b over ax plus c over a equals 0. In fact, I divided 0 by a. But whatever 0, anything you divide, if you divide 0 by a, it's still 0. Divide 0 by 20 is 0. So, in the second step, here step 2, we're going to subtract c over a from both sides of the equation, so that it becomes x squared plus b over a x plus c over a minus c over a equals minus c over a. What have I done here? I have basically moved my c over a from this side to the other side, so that c over a minus c over a, that's 0. So that x squared plus bx is equals to minus c over a. Now, to complete the square, I'm going to half what I have here in the middle and add it to both sides. That makes the equation a perfect square, so that it becomes x squared plus b over ax plus half what you have in the middle, b over 2a, because I'm halving it, I'm multiplying it, I'm dividing it by 2. Or I say I'm multiplying it by half. All squared is equal to minus c over a plus b over 2a all squared. So that by completing the square now, to make this a perfect square, I'm bringing out my x. I'm bringing out my x plus b over 2a all squared is equals to minus c over a plus b over 2a all squared. I'll stop here. Now, this is the basics for every completing the square method. And by the time we start deriving our formula, you see why we adopted this method, and you see where this method will actually lead us to. In my next lesson, we'll be deriving, we'll end it. In the next lesson, we'll end this process and it will lead us to the formula for quadratic equations. But for now, I want you to understand the procedure, how it works with completing the square. Remember we started with the equation itself. Ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. Step 1, divide through by a. It becomes x squared. I'm dividing this by a. That becomes x squared. Divide this side by a, it becomes b over ax. Divide c by a, it becomes c over a equals 0. If you divide 0 by a, it's still 0. Now, move in step 2, move what you have as a constant to the other side. How did we do that? We subtracted c over a from both sides of the equation, so that x squared plus b over ax is equals to minus c over a. Now, to complete the square, half what you have, the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x is b over a. You half it either by dividing by 2 or by multiplying by half. It's still the same thing. Half it and square it, adds to both sides. I've half it, I've squared it here. Whatever you do to side A, you must do to side B to balance the equation. So that when I half it, it becomes x squared plus b over ax plus b over 2a squared minus, this is equals to minus c over a plus b over 2a all squared. Now, as completing the square, I now bring out x plus b over 2a and I bracket it. If you expand this bracket, it will bring you back to this equation. If we expand this bracket, it will bring us back to this equation. Now, by the time we now, x plus b over 2a is equal to minus c over a plus b over 2a all squared. This should lead us to the formula. But for this lesson, what we're working on is how to use completing the square method. Now, let's solve these 3 questions to help us understand what we have done here. Question 1 says x squared plus x minus 3 equals 0. The first step is to divide all through by the coefficient of a, of x squared. But here the coefficient of x squared is 1. If I divide through by 1, my figures still remain. So let's move to step 2. Step 2 says I should move the constant here to the other side. That means x squared plus x is equal to plus 3. When minus 3 moves to the other side, it becomes plus 3. Normally, we will not add the positive sign in front, but I just done that to help you understand it. Is equal to 3. Now, divide the coefficient of x by 2 and add to both sides. That becomes x squared plus x plus, the coefficient of x here is 1. 1 divided by 2 is half. Square it and add to both sides. Now x squared, obviously, this square, this equation, we've completed the square here. I now bring out x plus half, all squared is equals to 3 plus half raised to power 2. That's 3 plus 1 over 4. Half raised to power 2, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4. X plus half is equals to 3 plus 1 over 4. That's 4. This is as good as 3 over 1. 1 in 4 is 4. Times 3 is 12. 1 in 4, 4 in 1 is 4. 4 in 1, 4 in 4 is 1. Times 1 is 1. That's 13 over 4. Let's recap. This is 3 whole number plus 1 over 2. It's as good as 3 over 1. To solve, I want to solve the equation. Now, 3 over 1 plus 1 over 4. 1 in 4 is 4. Times 3 is 12. Plus 4 in 1 is 4 in 4 is 1. Times 1 is 1. 12 plus 1 is 13 over 4. So that here is x squared, x plus half squared. My x plus half squared is equals to 13 over 4. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides. Take the square root of both sides. Or this, let me put the expression. Let me make the expression more obvious. becomes x plus half all squared is equals to 13 over 4. So that if I'm taking the square root of both sides, x plus half is the same thing as plus or minus square root of 13 over 4. Now, obviously, this is leading me to an irrational number. This becomes x is equal to minus half plus or minus root of 13 over 4. X becomes minus half plus root 13 over 2. Root of 4 is 2. So that this is plus or minus. This is 2 minus 1 plus root 13 or minus 1 minus root 13 over 2. Honestly, you can leave your question at this point. Why? Because root 13 is an irrational figure. But you can take it further to solve for root 13 to become minus half plus root 13 is root 13 is 3.61. 3.61 over 2 or minus 1 minus 3.61 over 2. So that this is just minus 1 plus 3.61 over 2, that's 2.61 over 2 or minus 4.61 over 2. This is obviously 1.305 or minus 2.305. Now this is how you solve quadratic equations when they involve irrational figures. Like this kind of question, it will be challenging to solve them using factorization method. Let's take a second example. In case if you have gray areas and you need to ask us questions, kindly use the comment section. Also, if you are just meeting our channel for the first time, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Let's take question 2. Y squared minus 6y plus 9 is equal to 0. Remember, our first step is to divide through by the coefficient of x squared, which is a. In this case is 1. So we can continue to step 2. In step 2, we'll move our constant to the other side so that my y squared minus 6y is equal to minus 9. Having done that, I now divide the coefficient of x, which is coefficient of y here, by 2 and add its square to both sides. It becomes y squared minus 6y plus, now I'm dividing minus 6 by 2. That's minus 6 by 2, that's minus 3. Minus 3 all squared equals minus 9 plus minus 3 all squared. It becomes y squared minus 6y plus minus 3 all squared is equals to minus 9 plus, now this is minus 3 all squared. It's going to lead me to plus 9. Minus 9 plus 9 equals 0. So that my y squared minus 6y plus minus 3 all squared is equals to 0. At the end, we discover that my y minus 3 all squared. Remember, in completing the square, I'm going to pick my y and pick the figure inside this bracket so that my y minus 3 is equals to 0. Take square root of both sides. By the time I take square root of both sides, it knocks off this half so that y minus 3 is equal to square root of 0, which is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. And y obviously is equals to 3. Do it twice. Let's take the third question. Question 3. 5p squared minus 5 is equals to 2p. Now, the examiner has actually disorganized the question. Permit me to use that word. So let's reorganize it. It becomes 5p squared. Take your 2p back here, becomes minus 2p minus 5 equals 0. Now we can apply step 1. Step 1 says we divide through by the coefficient of x squared. It becomes 5p squared minus 2 over 5. I'm dividing through by 5. Minus 5 divided by 5, 1 equals 0. So that we can now apply step 2. In step 2, we'll be moving the constant to the other side. P squared minus 2 over 5 is equals to 1. Let's go to step 3. We'll have the coefficient of P, that's 2 over 5P. We'll have the coefficient and square it and add to both sides. That is P squared minus 2 over 5P plus minus 2 over 5. That's halving it becomes minus 2 over 10 all squared equals 1. So that this becomes all squared 1 plus minus 2 over 10 all squared. Whatever I do to the right side, I do the same to the left side. Now, this is actually a complete square. We can now expand or break it down. So that this pick my P minus 2 over 10 all squared equals 1 plus minus times minus here is plus. 2 times 2 is 4. Over 10 times 10 is what? 100. Now let's just expand this out. So that this is the same thing as saying 100, that's my LCM. 1 in 100 is 100 times 1 is 100 plus 100 in 100 is 1 times 4 is 4. So that my P minus 2 over 10 all squared equals 104 over 100. With that, we can take the square root of both sides to solve our equation. If I take the square root of this side, I'll be left with P minus 2 over 10 equals plus or minus square root of 1 over 4 all over 100. Now this expression now becomes P minus 2 over 10 equals plus or minus square root of 104 divided by 100. If you use our calculator, you know that the square root of 104 is 10.2. No, sorry, this is square root of 100 is 10. But the square root of 104 is 10.2. So I can easily replace my square root of 104 here by 10.2. So that my P finally equals 2 over 10 goes to the other side, becomes plus 2 over 10 plus 10.2 over 10, or 2 over 10 minus 10.2 over 10. Let's take our LCMs. Here is 10. That's plus 2 plus 10.2, or 2 minus 10.2 over 10. So that my P finally is equals to 2 plus 10.2, that's 12.2 over 10, or 2 minus 10.2, that's minus 8.2 over 10. With that, I can say that my P is equal to 1.22 or minus 0.82. Thank you. With that, we have come to the end of solving quadratic equation with completing the square method. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel if you are just coming in contact with us the first time. And if you have questions, kindly use our comment section. Thank you.